Hi again then guys, and welcome to of course another speed tune for Gran Turismo Sport in particular, and this one is kind of a multi-purpose tune because although the top speed itself is slower than many of the vehicles that we've done, which tend to be up around 260, 270, sometimes even more, this one, as you could see, is more around the low to mid 250 region in the case of the Charger SRT Hellcat, and the reason why is it's simply a slower vehicle. There are some cars that hover more around the mid to high 250 range, and this tends to be one of them. It's a great rival for stuff like Lambos, a couple of the Ferraris like the 458, a couple of others too. It's a nice little group of cars which are pretty well matched. However, I wanted this tune to be both good as a just standalone speed tune for the Charger, but also with slipstream potential for those who do want to race it against much faster cars, say up around 265, 270 or even higher. So what I've done is I've built it to do 253 in 6th gear, and then you've got all of 7th gear to slipstream with. So I'm not sure what the actual maximum speed is. I'd be interested in hearing that from those of you who use it and test it, but it should be theoretically easily above 270, maybe even 280. So of course, try it out, see what you think. As far as the upgrades go, obviously you want to drop the weight as low as it can go, increase the power as high as it can go. Traction control, I would recommend having off. That's down to you, of course. As far as the tyres, you want the highest grip possible, which is super softs. For the suspension, I've dropped the ride height to 95mm, which is 15mm higher than stock, or not stock, than the lowest I should say. As far as the frequency, you want that as high as it can go. For stability in particular, anti-roll on 4, then combined with the frequency of the springs, you want your dampers for both compression and rebound as low as they can go. And of course that's kind of my signature suspension setup. We've got 2 degrees of camber, primarily because it's a street car, a powerful one, but a street car nonetheless. It's taller and thinner than some supercars, so it's not quite as stable. So having 2 degrees of camber, it should be good enough to keep it nice and stable through the corners, especially when it's a bit heavier as well. We've got neutral toe, downforce cannot be adjusted. As far as the diff, I've got, as you can see, the lowest initial torque, the highest braking, and the highest acceleration. That's down to you. You could change it if you want to though, see what works better for you. And finally for the gearbox, of course, you want the fully customised transmission, an auto setting of 280, which I believe is the highest one. Then for the individual gears, 3.1, 2, 1.5, 1175, 975, 850 and 750, and I would recommend a final drive of 2.2. Now, if you want to do that same speed but use all 7 gears, put the final drive to 2.5, then you'll do 253 in 7th gear. But I wouldn't really recommend that because it's kind of pointless. If you can do the same speed in 6th, you might as well. The only thing to bear in mind is that downhill, if you have it in auto, it will change up into 7th gear, and then it'll start to slow down because that's just for slipstream. So you might want to use a manual gearbox for this one, or just make sure that you're behind someone's slipstream when you're going downhill. It's a fairly simple fix, but it's something that you should bear in mind. So that's it for the tune, but now of course what you want to see is, as we always do, put it out on Route X to watch it in action. So as I said, this car actually makes a pretty nice and somewhat unconventional rival to stuff like the Lamborghini Huracan, the Ferrari 458, even some of the Vipers, funnily enough, are similar to this in terms of speed. And if you do want to use a car that's more of a sleeper, this is a pretty good option to go for. It's one of the only super saloons in the game at the moment, so it's kind of in its own club. But if you do want to use it, you can definitely have a lot of fun with it. As you can see from the speed, it gets up around the 240, 250 region pretty quickly, especially considering it's not a supercar. And then the last couple of miles per hour just takes a bit longer. Downhill, you'll get it up over 255, 256. In fact, once you get it up around 257, it will automatically change to 7th gear if you're driving with auto like I do. Which is why I said just now, if you are using manual, just leave it in 6th, and then when you're behind someone, like a supercar for instance, then knock it up into 7th gear and you'll have plenty more speed to come. Then if you come out of slipstream, or for instance somebody hits you and you lose that lead, you might want to, for instance, drop back into 6th, because then you won't lose quite as much. As you can see, it's up bouncing on the red line at like 255, 256, but it levels out on the straights In terms of handling, it's very good for what it is. It's big, it's heavy, as I said, it's taller than most cars that you would typically race here, so considering its proportions and that it is a big four-door car, it actually handles itself very well. So if you enjoy this tune and want to check out my other ones, of course, click this playlist on the screen, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.